Hello, Edis, could you present yourself?
So, hi, I'm Edis Galushi. I'm the fourth son of Mehmet and Zinet Galushi. So, I do have two older brothers who live in Germany. It's Erwin and Erhan Galushi. And the second child is actually my sister, who's married and has three kids, Mersiha Galushi, and I'm the youngest, Edis Galushi, who is a father of a daughter, of 5 months daughter, Dua, and I'm married to Merita Galushi, and I've graduated from the University of Zagreb in teaching English as a foreign language. I do hold a master's degree, and also my wife is a physiotherapist. She works in the hospital, and I do live with my parents, still in the neighborhood where I was born. The neighborhood where we are currently in, it's Yeta Ere, and it's translated as the new life, and it's one of the among six Roma neighborhoods in Prizren. Prizren is the city of Kosovo, and it's regarded as the city who has the largest number of Roma inhabitants. It counts nearly 6,000 to 7,000. And yeah, we do live here for a really long period, and I do remember when my father first of all bought this land. I wasn't in this life. And he was one of the among first neighbors in here, and soon after the war, after the last war, this neighborhood like increased rapidly, and it became now as the largest Roma neighborhood in Prizren. So yeah, I do other than my professional work where where I do give private lessons about English, I do also social activities, which I'll tell you more later on. Other than that, I do prefer artistic work, and I am a freelance artist, working first of all at the Roma Theater, which has been established in 1989, and it's still currently working. Recently,
So you are actors or
yeah, I'm
director?
no, I'm the actor of the theater. It's an amateur theater actually. We're not working professionally on this field, but however, we do try to portray another part of the Roma, right? That a real part of the Roma somehow, especially this literary work has most of the times diminish the picture of the Roma, and through theater plays, which most of them are produced by the artists themselves, we do try to portray another and positive part of the Roma culture. My last project in theater was a monodrama. I've written it during my studies in Zagreb for 2 years, and it's actually a story of a man who has exhibited all the goods that the Roma have given to the society. So he more or less he speaks about his family, and he's traveling through the centuries, and he has exhibited there the blacksmith equipments and tools, since the Roma are known as blacksmiths. And then he goes on and he has exhibited there some agricultural tools, because Roma, especially those from Prizren, were known farmers. And then he goes on and he has there some ropes, because Roma have dealt with ropes and produced ropes. Then he speaks about the music and how the Roma have contributed to the general sense of music. He also has some tools of physical workers, and then he also has in the scene some clothes of his mother, explaining that the Romani women were doing the cleaning of the houses, and still Roma remained as the unclean. And by the end, he has some books where he shows the anger exactly there, and he burns those books telling to the audience that the story that they have heard up to now was never written in those books, right? And the image of the Roma that Deltan, who was the main role of the play, was never portrayed in those books. Because I do recall the idea to write this play came after I've written my bachelor thesis, because in my bachelor thesis I have analyzed the characteristics of the gypsy characters in English novels. And what I came across is that in each and every novel, the gypsies were portrayed as thieves, as those who steal children, as those who are dirty, and another
uneducated people.
uneducated, for sure, right? And those who, especially this is very important, and those who speak broken language, right? And another positive or negative thing is their attachment to the nature. And one positive thing that was portrayed in most of the English literature, I focus myself in there, is their natural look, right? This was one positive thing that I could find. But however, all these goods that I'm now coming back to the story of the theater play, all these goods that were mentioned through the play were never found in any book, right? And most of the times this Roma history or Roma stories were written by non-Roma. And even if they were written by Roma, they were only consulted Roma. And most of the times in these consultations were broken, not real. And maybe the representation of the people was not real, right? So we definitely have to be wary, in the sense, like, be open-minded when speaking about the Roma culture and Romanism at all. I think I've started really broad, but most of the time that's what I do. So that's where I focus myself. So through social and artistic activities, I do try to, first of all, tell my story and my view in the sense of Romanism in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are involved also in an NGO here in Prizren. Could you speak about the aims, the targets of your organization, and also concretely about what are your activities or projects are you active, which topics?
Yeah. First of all, I'll give you the sense of NGO, right? If you compare the role of the NGO in more developed countries in comparison to Kosovo, this NGO has somehow taken the sense of a factory, right? As a place which employs people. Whereas in more developed countries, NGO has an aim for the people who do already have a job, but they somehow contribute to the NGO as a secondary work, right? So having this very high rank of unemployment, in Kosovo you can find, like, day by day new NGOs coming up and new NGOs being established only because of this unemployment rate. So unfortunately, if you compare the number of the Roma citizens in comparison to the number of the Roma NGOs, you'll find, wow, like, you'll find 20 NGOs serving to a very small number of community.
Maybe it's also because after the war, a lot of international big NGO come here and help the people, and they see, oh, maybe we can do the same or have a job in those, but after 10 years they leave and, okay, what we do now?
What we do now,
Is it a bit also...
That's definitely the case which we are now experiencing, because soon after the war you could see, like, dozens of donations coming to Kosovo and thing, and you really each and every day a new NGO was popping up, right? You didn't know where it came from. Like 2-3 people came together, made an NGO and got a project. And I'm telling you, in Kosovo the sense of NGO has gotten this picture of a factory, right? If you have an NGO, you have a factory, and more or less you can easily become rich. So that's why I'm more reserved personally to be part of NGOs, right? And wherever I contribute, I first of all do see whether that NGO has a real aim and has a real aim of working, first of all, giving the service to the community before looking for the personal interest, right? And after I came back from Croatia, I'm definitely very reserved in working with NGOs. Where I'm currently volunteering is the Roma Versitas Kosovo, or Kosova. It's the Hungarian-based organization which has recently opened these branches in Prizren. And honestly, when I entered the NGO, I told them that I don't want any membership and I don't want to be more or less regarded as their part, because I'm very much interested to remain as a freelance activist who can contribute whenever I have time, because in my life I first of all focus on my profession, and after that I do contribute into social activities without possibly without any compensation, right? Because this is how I perceive the NGO sector. The NGO sector has some people who have this common sense and working because of this common sense, right? It's normally that you do need to get some compensation if the contribution is long and gets you high energy. But however, for small activities, I contribute to any NGO which fits my interests, right, and my intellectual views. So if you go across the Prizren, I mean, not only Roma, but lots of NGOs will know my name. But however, I'm not a direct member of any NGO. I'm telling you, if I do have a project that I want to implement, I do have the open doors in NGOs. They're definitely all are friendly and willing to cooperate with anybody. But still, I do not want to involve myself directly into NGOs because of this generally perceived picture in Kosovo, right? And I don't want to somehow be involved into this. But however, the NGO sector, like coming back to now to Romani activism, the NGO sector can be regarded as one of the most successful stakeholder in promoting the well-being of the Roma, right? Soon after the war, NGO and civil society people were those who have increased the level of, let me call so, Roma integration into the society. So there's definitely a good job that has been done, but it could have definitely been better, right? If the priorities would have been set better. But still, this is what we have.
So the project that you realize in this NGO are also concrete.
Absolutely.
Could you explain some of them?
Absolutely. So what we are recently doing, we came up with a civic education week, right? We do have an American volunteer in our organization who is doing her volunteer service through the Peace Corps organization. It's a American organization which sends volunteers in all over the world, and we received one, and she came up with an idea to more or less make the kids aware about the services of the public institutions. So what we are doing is we have currently Roma and Bosniak kids, sending them to public institutions like courts, police, fire station, hospital and municipality. And each and every day kids go there and see, first of all, where is that institution, and then they get direct instructions and lectures from those people who work there. What do they offer to the citizens, right? So more or less we want to make them more aware about this citizenship rights and the rights that they have as inhabitants of a certain city. And other than that, I'm very directly involved into Roma theater, and I'm currently writing my second monodrama. It's entitled 2nd of August 1944. I don't know whether you know, but Roma were the second victims of the Holocaust, and they most of the times remain as unrevealed and untold stories. And exactly the date of the 2nd of August 1944 is the date when the regime has secured this day of exclusion of the Roma, right? And exactly on the 2nd of August was the day when they have reserved this day for the victims of Roma and burn that day only the Roma, right?
Yeah, in Auschwitz?
In Auschwitz-Birkenau, yeah. So this is what I'm currently working on. Other than that, I'm more than willing to support the students of the Roma Versitas Kosova, because there is the place where, I mean, that's the place where the largest number of the Roma students go, because they do receive direct services from there. They do receive scholarships, they do have place to implement various social projects. So this is more or less where I found myself to contribute. So other than all these activities that I do go there and offer my, I don't know, my support to community students, whether with advice or whether with, I don't know, connections I know, in order for them to reach their aims. I don't know, finding a certain book or finding a certain scholarship or finding or researching for a better university for them to find, I don't know, MA degrees or bachelor's degrees, why not? Very recently I was hired for 3 days by an NGO to speak to the Roma community students about career orientation and to more or less share with them my story of education and how they can find the best suitable education. So more or less I've introduced the programs of the public universities of Kosovo, and also I've shared with them some of the links of the possibilities that are being given, as for example Erasmus Plus program or American scholarships or also European government scholarships. So more or less I'm trying to fit myself and trying to create this role of a guide person, right? And
Okay.
this is where I most of the time go. So Roma Versitas Kosova is the place where I spend most of my day, and other than my professional work that I do, because currently I'm not publicly hired by any school. I do give private lectures of English, but I do work as a freelance interpreter for English, Albanian and Serbian languages. So most of the time the Roma Versitas Kosova is the place where I spend my day, and since I don't have my own office, I do use their office and be there, spend most of the time, and during that period I try to, I don't know, facilitate the work of the students or even guide them in a daily basis or whenever they need.
Yes, thank you. And yesterday we meet you by hazard about an event you organized in the cinema. It was about an author and a poet, and Roma poet. Could you speak about those famous men?
Yes. Yeah, last night we had a commemorational nights. I'm calling nights because the same night will be organized tomorrow in Peja or Peć, another city of Kosovo, and then in the capital of Kosovo, in Pristina. And yeah, what was the aim of that? This commemorational nights is actually a project which was thought by the Roma Versitas Kosova students. It's implemented under the Students' Initiative projects, and they really get small amount by the Roma Versitas Kosova to implement their ideas. And all the students who study linguistics came up with this idea to somehow commemorate our late professor and poet Kujtim Pachaku. Who was Kujtim Pachaku? Personally, I grew up with his poems and with his artistic work, and I can definitely tell you that he has left the greatest traces into Kosovarian culture generally, right? He was the first to enter with his Roma culture into general Kosovarian culture, and he used to perform at the National Theater. He used to perform at the private theaters with his Romani language and with his Romanism approach, right? And he was the first one to break this ice in the cultural aspect, right? And all the youngsters who dealt with culture more or less viewed him as a role model of culture, right? And he is the first and the only one to print a large number of books with poems. And I truly don't, I would like to believe and hope that we will still create another Kuitim who will really deal with poems. So since we had only one Kuitim whom we lost 40 days ago, and students came up with this idea to commemorate him. So other than that, in his last years of life in the 5th legislature of Kosovo, he was elected as an MP and for 3 years, and he entered...
MP is mayor of the city, or?
No, it's a member of the parliament.
Okay.
So he worked at the central governmental institution, and he was like a community deputy, right? Because in Kosovo you have 120 deputies who work at the parliament, at the Kosovarian parliament, and he was one of them. And he was like, in my article which I wrote regarding Kuitim, I've told that he was a definitely good answer of political inactivity of the Roma. Because for these 3 years what he has done, we have never had in Kosovarian history. I'm speaking now in political aspect of the Roma, right? What he has done through these 3 years, he has first of all made the Kosovarian society aware that there is a community, well-educated Romani community in Kosovo, first of all. Because one thing I should re-emphasize is that Mr. Kuitim, our late Mr. Kuitim, was the first one to hold MA degree, and he has graduated into musics. What he, through his political activity, he has tried to first of all portray this second image of the Roma, right? This unpublished image of the Roma. And most of the times he was very much criticized by the civil society people that he's promoting himself when he speaks to the ambassadors. But they never saw his real aim. Because every time when he met ambassadors or high politicians, he had like a rule to give them a book, right? And this is the way how he introduced this another face of Roma. Because through that, he could definitely advocate and he could definitely show directly the second face of Roma. Because in the books he gave, they were like directly met with another value of Roma. And this is the first time when they heard that the Romani language is that broad that you can have this very broad poetic language.